WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have something fairly rare, fairly exotic. It's a 20-year-old Ballechin. So this is Whiskybase number 253344. This was distilled in February and March of 2024. It was bottled on the 4th of March 2024. So it's the February and March of 2004. Sorry, so it's 20 years. And first fill bourbon barrels. There's a little bit of a rumor going on. They were old granddad bottles. Those are the high rye versions. Same thing as Basil Hayden from Jim Beam. 2,106 bottles. It says here in the back we have 52.8%. An angel share, so it probably went in the bottle at 63.5. So about 11% over 10 years, which is not bad. I did the math. There are 12 barrels in here. That means it has 168 bottles per barrel. First fill bourbon, that's very good. This is heavily peated, 50%, 50 ppm. This is cask strength. This is small batch. In the UK, this runs for about 179 pounds. Over here in Germany, it's about 219 euros. It averages out very good. The first shops are actually now putting on sale for 200 euros or 199. That's not anything to worry about. It's a summer break. People are trying to get rid of a little bit of the inventory, having a little bit of cash flow coming in. That's just fine. Now, Edradour is the distillery where Ballechin is made. Ballechin is the peated version of Edradour. Just like you have Tobermory, the distillery on the island of Mull, and you have the Legic, which is their peated variation. So they're not the only ones that have done this, all right? So Andrew Semmington, 1988. I came to Germany as an 18-year-old young man or teenager back in 1988. Did an exchange year, stayed in Germany, met my wife, my first wife, stayed here and had kids and did everything. I've been here now since 1988, so it's 36 years now. That's a long time. Andrew has done a lot in his 36 years as well. He started the independent bottle called Signatory Vintage. Maybe you've seen some of the bottles. These are the small batch. So he's been doing this for 36 or 35 plus years now. In 2002, after various attempts of buying, which I did not know Artbeck, he tried to buy Glenturret. He tried to buy Scapa. Finally, Pernod Ricard. I'm going to do a video about Pernod Ricard in the next months about how they were created and how they basically stumbled into the whiskey business. Now, they're doing excellent work in Ireland. They're doing very, very good work in the U.S., but I still have the feeling they're still just selling distilleries every once in a while, all right? So Pernod Ricard sold a distillery just recently to Elixir Brands. They sold Glenallachie to Billy Walker. They sold here Edradour back then to Edward Symington. And so he bought the distillery in 2002 for 5.6 million pounds. I think there recently was a cask of Artbeck that went for 3 million pounds. That's cheap. You can't build a distillery today for 5 million pounds in all of Scotland, anywhere, I think. All right, so he got this beautiful, beautiful gem. It is a beautiful place there. And what happened is also 20 years later, so basically he did his independent bottling business from 88 to 2002. And then in 2022, basically roundabout, the plans had been longer in the making, and COVID happened, but he actually opened up an expansion of his distillery so that there's 2 distilleries, A and B basically, and he doubled capacity, just mirrored the distillery basically. All right, so the guy has successfully been an independent bottler now for 35 plus years. He bought the distillery and he expanded the distillery. And not only that, but in 2002, after he bought the distillery, just 2 years later, he started, and even before that, he started making Ballechin. Ballechin is the peated version, the heavily peated, in this case, 50 ppm, of his Edradour spirit. And he just let these 12 casks sit in the warehouse for 20 years. So after 12 years, he could have bottled them. No. After 15 years, he could have bottled them. No. After 18 years, he could have bottled them. No. He waited the full 20 years to put these on the market. At the moment, we have more or less the calculation, some more or less ballpark figure, 10 euros per year cask strength, especially with single cask. Now, this is small batch. These are 12 casks that were mingled or blended or married together. And so for 219 euros, 179 pounds, it's about right. Last year, they put out a 19-year-old Madeira. They put out a 19-year-old Manzanilla. They put out a 17-year-old Burgundy. So all from Ballechin, hit the markets. I bought all three. I did a bottle share. Everyone was happy. I don't even think I did a lot of videos about those because I'm not a Ballechin fan. I'm not the peat head. I'm not the person that really, really loves this type of whiskey. And yet this time I wanted to do a video because there's so much to talk about here. All right, so I'm going to pour a little bit and reflect. Many people say, and probably rightfully so, the longer a peated whiskey is in a cask, the more of its peat influence is lost to the cask. Now, I've had quite a few non-peated whiskeys that have been matured in casks that previously held peated whiskey, and that peat actually is extracted from the barrel char and put in the whiskey. And it's sometimes, I've had one from Berry Brothers and Rudd. We had a Ben Nevis heavily peated, and we had something else that was in a, it was an Oddmore that was peated, and we had a Ben Nevis that was not peated, but in a peated cask. The Ben Nevis had more peat ppm feel than the Oddmore did, which is crazy, which should not happen. And so, yes, the cask, the char, absorbs a lot of those ppms. And so after 20 years, you can not just have a more smooth, mellow, silky texture of your whiskey and a great, great, great mouthfeel, but also you're going to have less and less and less of that peat reek, of that peatiness. I remember one time someone wanted to give me a 27-year-old Islay whiskey. And I was like, nah, don't waste it on me. But Jason is 27 years old. I said, yes, exactly, don't waste it on me. But there's hardly any peat. I said, I could still taste it. I don't want it. And they just shook their head and walked away. It's like, how could you refuse a 27-year-old Islay single malt whiskey? I can. Other people will enjoy it much, much more. And I'm sure other people will enjoy this whiskey much, much more than I do. But I still find that what happened here with Ballechin for 20 years ago is great. Now, there's a guy, Andre Haberecht, his YouTube channel is called Whiskey Tales. He does it only in German, but you can use YouTube today with subtitles, and actually they'll give him an English voice as well. That's amazing. And he used to work at Edradour for Signature Vintage for Andrew Symington. And he mentioned the fact that, for example, last year, 2023, they did no peated malt at the distillery, as it was impossible for a normal price to get peated malt. The year before that, I think I heard they also didn't do. I think the year before that as well. So since COVID, basically, this is a rumor, I'm not sure it's true, there has been very little, if no, Ballechin laid down. Which means in the year 2044, we're not going to have a 20-year-old Ballechin. Or in 10 years, or 12 years, or 14 years. There will be a gap in the production of peated malt. And by the way, it's just not Ballechin that has had this problem. Many other distilleries worldwide that got their peated malt from Scotland have had problems with supply chain issues. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I am going to compare this to something. I'm going to compare it to, believe it or not, a Talisker 18. Now, the price of the Talisker 18 used to be under 100 euros. They doubled the price overnight. Now it's about 200 euros. This is about 200 euros. So, on 18-year-old Talisker, 45.8%, chill filtrated, artificial color added, caramel coloring. Yeah, what can I say? But this is something that has a lower ppm value, a lower parts per million in the phenol department. So the peated malt here is not as extremely peated as the heavily peated here over here of the Ballechin. Now I just want to check these and see how well my theory matches up. My question of the day before I even try these is, what 18 plus year old peated cask strength whiskey can you recommend around the €200 mark? So this has now been eliminated. It's not cask strength. The Freud 18 just hit the market, not cask strength. It's 180, I think, over here. I think this is a uniquely priced, uniquely positively priced whiskey. I know of, at the moment, nothing I can think of a peated cask strength 18 plus year old whiskey. It can be small batch, it can be single barrel, it can be independent bottle, it can be original bottling. I don't care, but is anything out there around the €200 mark like this? And so if you are a fan of peated whiskeys, and if you want to try a Fill Bourbon, just what we want, this is what we've been asking for, peated cask strength whiskey, I don't think there's any way of you not wanting to buy this whiskey. There's only 2016 bottles of this. They've been on the market since May 2024. The only reason not to buy this is if your checkbook says no, if your bank account says no, if your palate says no. If you're not a peathead, don't buy it, all right? But there's people out there that are major peatheads that are going, their mouth is just watering. I mean, they're just looking at their saliva, and they're just going, oh, Jason, try this. Please try this. Tell me how good this is. This must be the nectars of the god. I am not a peathead. I am not going to celebrate this whiskey, and yet I'm going to appreciate this whiskey. On the nose, this is, I thought about this. Where did Andrew Symington in the year 2004 get his 50 ppm peated malt from? Is it Port Ellen? I'm going to say yes. I might be totally wrong. It might be Glen-esque. It might be someplace else. But I think this just smells like a Port Ellen peat reek for me. Reek is the smell, the aroma. I get vanilla. I get a little bit here of a orange peel, dried apricots. This is a good whiskey. So there's a little bit of sweetness involved in there as well. Wow, I have no tasting notes here. Okay. So the tasting notes on Whiskybase 253344 says, I'm just going to read one of these. Sweet, light fruit, only a small amount of smoke. Good balance, a cooling sensation in the nose, artificial sweetness with water, sweeter, more vanilla, a bit herbal. All right, that's with David here with 89 points. So someone else writes down here, sweetness and smoke dominate the nose. The smoke has beautiful maritime notes of salty sea air, seaweed, shell, a limestone, as well as a delicate phenolic but very pleasant note, caramel, vanilla, some light chocolate, grass, herbal notes, oak, wood, great nose, everything nice and clean and harmonious. I cannot add anything to that. This is different. This has caramel, artificial. This has a little bit of the sea air as well. This is less of a peat bomb. This is definitely peat, but a good peat. It's a fire. It's a bonfire peat. I like. All right. It is cask strength. We are talking about 52.8% here. Cheers. I've had a few Ballecchins in my life. This is very, very classic. The classic bourbon matured peated single malt whiskey. The smokiness It's like a cigar, a good cigar that's permeated the room. It's like a bonfire on the 4th of July. 4th of July has more of the sulfur because of the fireworks. No sulfur whatsoever. There's white pepper. There's wood. There's a tiny little bit of maybe white chocolate going on in here. There's a sweetness, vanilla, and an herbalness, a light drying astringency moment. Now, for people that love this type of whiskey, this is classic. This is what you've wanted now and have missed in the last couple of years. Is all the sherry, Madeira, Mazala, port, rum, blah, 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 all these things. This is just classic. This is classic goodness. And the peat has mellowed. The active charcoal of the cask has extracted a lot of the peat, not all, but a lot, and made this a whiskey that has layers, textures, and complexity. This is probably, for the classic peated cask strength drinker, a solid B. Now, it's not me. I'm not a peat head. This is a B+. This is a B+ whiskey. I think the value for money is it's a C+. I'm sorry. It's a solid B. It's a C+ for me. It's a C- for value for money. Why? Because I just don't have 200 euros throwing out for a bottle of whiskey. All right, that's 20 years old that I don't particularly love. There are other things I'm going to go buy for 200 euros and just use it and drink it and share it with friends and do a share and so on. But I bought this for people in my group so they could actually try this. So this was immediately within an hour or two, there was a bottle share and it was gone. People, 20-year-old Ballechin, first fill bourbon casks, probably old granddad. Wow, they were just loving it. And I think this is a very, very excellently produced single malt from Ballechin. Not my flavor profile, but wonderfully made. So well done. If this is your wheelhouse and you can find a bottle for a price about... So what I did not understand, a price that is about okay, I would go for it. If I go over here, there's a shop we all might have heard of, Le Maison de Whisky in Paris. 269 euros. The retail recommended price in Germany was 219. That's 50 euros more for the exact same bottle. At the Masters of Malt, they're paying 179 pounds. The Whiskey Exchange, 181 pounds. That's 213, 212 euros there. Why does this bottle cost so much more in Paris? So don't be gouged for the same bottle available someplace else. I don't think it's made to America, nor do I think it will make it to America. I do know that the American distributor of Signature Vintage is I know that we are blessed in Germany with Signature Vintage bottlings that some people don't even get in Scotland and UK and England. I know there's a great connection between the German importer and then Signature Ballechin and Edradour brands, and we are spoiled for choice over here. And I'm very, very happy that we always get a nice share of the bottles that hit the market worldwide. The 18 Taliska. I thoroughly loved this whiskey when it was about 80, 90 euros. Now at 180 to 190 euros, it's just like, well, I'm happy that I have a couple of bottles bunkered away, stored away there. There's a little bit more of a sourness here. There's a little bit more of that caramel, artificial flavoring moment that I get. This is so much cleaner, pure, pristine. Great stuff. So, can you name whiskeys 18 plus years of age in cask strength, peated, that are less or around 200 euros? Ta-da! What else can you recommend? Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and I think what Edradour, what Ballechin, what Andrew Symington has done with Signature is just fantastic. Very well done. respect. Bye-bye.